Hey everybody, it's Josie. Welcome back to Cedar Creek Homestead. I hope y'all have had a fantastic day. It's been a good day here at Cedar Creek. I gave y'all an update earlier in the day. If you didn't see it, it was an update on Blade and Cheyenne and the baby. Cheyenne is still in the hospital and she's still pregnant with baby Howie. The doctors came in and talked to her and told her that she would probably have to stay there. And she'll be there 34 to 36 weeks. She's 31 weeks pregnant, so we're looking for, quite a little stay at the hospital for her. And then after the baby's born, if he is born early, then, a little bit of an extra stay for him. And so the kids are challenged a little bit right now. Blade is going to have to go back and forth between work and the hospital. But it's not something that others haven't had to do before, and we'll be all right. I did want to tell you that I've had some subscribers ask about the kids and ask if I could provide an Amazon link to Cheyenne's baby registry so that they could do maybe perhaps do an online shower for her. So I asked her about it, and she doesn't have a problem with sharing that, and I'll get that information and try to get it linked either to this video or maybe it might take her a couple of days to get it all together because she is there at the hospital. Anyway, we don't want anyone to think that we're asking for anything at all. We're just trying to respond to those of you that have asked so kindly about her list. And so I'll put it out there, and if you want to, okay, and if you don't want to, well, that's fine too. We don't expect anything, but the kids are good, and I'm good here. I told you on the video I was having trouble with Foxy and Sadie being escaped artists. We got that fence fixed, and so far they're still in the backyard. They are diggers, especially Sadie. She's wiry, and she does not like to stay behind. Foxy's chubby, and he doesn't get out as quickly. He also has a messed up back leg, or his hip, where he got hit by a car when he was young. And so that slows him down a little bit. But now if he's chasing cows, he's pretty fast. But hopefully we've got him slowed down as far as digging out. Well, here we are. Now I don't know about where you guys are at, but here in Oklahoma, in October, we usually, on average, get our first frost. We have not had that yet. It is considerably cooler than it's been, and we're so thankful for that. And we did get some rain last week, several days of rain, and so things are starting to look up a little bit. The grass is greening up. I've even got some volunteer tomatoes have popped up, and some volunteer zinnias, and some other flowers that have just popped up, and it's always fun to see those. Now I know they're not going to be able to have anything made before frost gets them, but it's fun to see surprises, and I love surprises, good surprises. And so the seasons are changing, and here it's time to start thinking about getting things ready for winter. And there's some things that haven't always been part of my job here on the homestead. Howie has taken care of a whole lot of things. In fact, he has videos from last year. Some of his last videos were on getting prepared for winter and the things to do. And those things now are part of my job. And so it's time for me to think about those things. The other reason it's time for me to think about those things is because I have been under attack by a mouse army. I really don't know if it's field mouse. I'm pretty sure it's field mice. But they have tried to invade. And I'm doing my best to not let them invade. So I've been really working on getting every little nook and cranny cleaned. I need to do that anyway because I'm going to have a new grandbaby here, and I want to make sure the house is just as clean as it can be. But you know, a lot of people, and I may have said this on today's video, I think I did, about a lot of people spring clean, and I spring clean, but I got to fall clean too, because a lot of stuff gets put off in the summertime when I'm busy in the garden and busy canning and preserving and doing all those things. A lot of projects just get pushed to the side because they don't have time. Well, now is the time or I'm going to be in trouble with mice. And so I've been going through things, and you guys can't see it, thank goodness, but back behind you I have a stack of things that are leaving. They don't have they're not serving a purpose, and so they're leaving. And I've got books, and my books have to be stored properly because I love books and I don't want anything to happen with my books. But I'm having to I've noticed some of this problem because I'm having to clean out my guest bedroom to make room to set up a nursery for baby Howie, and I showed you the bare walls in there. Well, all the stuff that was in there has come in here to the living room. I'm sorting through that stuff, but I did notice that I've got a mouse issue, and so we are on the attack. I started to say under attack, and I guess I am under attack, but now I'm on the attack, and I have to get after those critters. Now, I've probably shared this story with you before. I'm a pretty good sized gal, but if you want to see me be scared of something besides snakes that I'm terrified of, I'm also scared to death of mice. When I was a young girl, I was with a friend. I was at her house, and she had a cat that had caught a little mouse. Now, if you've heard this, just ignore it. I'm one of those people that'll tell a story and you say, oh yeah, you've told me that, and I'll still go ahead and tell it to you. So if you heard it, just hold on for a minute and I'll be on to something else. Anyway, her cat had caught this mouse, and we felt so sorry for the little mouse. We were such dummies. We got the mouse away from the cat. Well, when we did, that mouse bit me, and to this day I have a scar on the palm of my hand where the mouse bit me. I didn't get sick or anything like that, but I still carry the scar. And that has made me fearful of anything furry like that. Mouse, gerbil, hamster, guinea pig. To me, they're all in the same family. And I know that rabbits aren't in that family, but sometimes, even though we raise rabbits, and I love rabbits and they're beautiful unless they're in my garden, I love them. But sometimes I can even be kind of a little bit standoffish and scared of a rabbit because they make me think of mice. And they make me think of all the little critters that's got those teeth. I don't know. Anyway, that's where I'm at now, is battling rodents. And I thought about that. We work hard all summer long putting up our produce or making, progress in our food storage. Whether it's just a cabinet in your house, or you have a cellar, or you have a food storage area, or you have a designated space that is for your food stores and for your other supplies. You don't want rodents or bugs to get in there and ruin anything. So, we need to be thinking about when we're stocking all these other things and finding things on sale and finding things, while we can, we need to be buying those things as well. There are lots and lots of products out there that are to help us with rodent control. And we use a variety of those things here on the homestead. Now, like I told you, in years past, Howie took care of all of that stuff. And I know mouse traps, and I know the little bags of the little pellet poisons that you put under things. I know about those things. But it's when you go beyond those things that I'm not quite as up on, but I believe I'm up for the challenge, because I'd rather deal with that than deal with the critters. So that was something that I wanted to talk about tonight, is to make sure that you have ample supplies put back so that you can address those issues before they become a serious problem in your food supply. Now, rodents carry diseases. Their feces and their urine can cause, I had to write it down, they cause a disease called hantavirus. It's a respiratory virus in humans. It's caused from that, and it can be fatal. Also, they carry the plague. Remember the stories about the bubonic plague? You can go back and read those stories, how they had the fleas and the things that were on the rodents caused the bubonic plague, salmonella, all of this thing. They get into your food supplies, and they get on your, if they get in your drawer, they can get on your silverware, and just all kinds of nasty stuff. So we want to take care of those. Plus, you've worked hard to make sure that you have food supply put up for your family, and you don't have the time or the effort to feed a family of rodents along with the rest of your family. Now that's funny, I know, but it's really serious. Besides your food supply, they'll get in anywhere where they can make a nest. If you've got paper products, and we all know what kind of big run they had on toilet paper and paper towels and Kleenexes and cleaning rags and all that kind of stuff, they'll get into that and they'll make a nest of that. So you need to make sure that you're storing stuff properly. Not only are you making sure that your food is put into containers that are rodent proof. Rats, big rats with the big teeth, I think that they could probably chew into your 5-gallon buckets. But if you're keeping an eye on it and keeping your stuff rotated and keeping your the poisons or whatever it is, traps that you decide to use, if you keep that in there, you're going to be able to see if there's an issue or not. So I wouldn't ever set anything on my shelf just like a bag of rice or a bag of beans or a bag of flour. You are asking for trouble. And it's the same way with the bags of toilet paper or the big bags of paper towels, or even paper napkins or paper plates. I've seen them chew on books, anything that they can tear up and make a nest out of. You want all of that stuff gone or stored in a way that rodents can't get in it. You need to protect your family from those diseases and protect your food supply so that you've got something to feed your family. You want to make sure that if there's a mess spilled, that it is cleaned up and done away with quickly. One area that I made a mistake in was I had Buddy, my little calf, remember him? I had his milk replacer in here in my house. And I had it in a good spot, I thought. And I would just go to it and it sealed up on the top, sealed up really nicely so it could be closed. And I could go in and get his, get what I needed, make his bottles. And then, but little did I know that I had a sneaky mouse that had chewed into the bottom of this bag. And this is a pretty thick and I thought pretty sturdy bag. But that mouse found it, and he chewed a hole in the bottom of it. And as I was using out of the top, he was using out of the bottom. And I finally discovered it, and I had a mess. So you need to make sure that you keep all of that stuff picked up and swept up. Same with your bird seed. If you feed the birds, bird seed and any kind of garden seed and wheat seed and things that we use to put out in our pastures, they will get into it. And you need to make sure that you get your messes cleaned up because they'll find it. Now, when you talk about prevention, keeping your messes clean is prevention. Keeping your stuff put in good buckets or put into glass. I like glass containers because they can't get into glass. Now I will tell you that on a glass, like a mason jar, I like to store mason jars out in my food storage if you can it, like a hot water bath can, steam can, pressure can, the rule is that you don't leave the ring on the jar. That way, if there's a failure, you're going to know it quickly, and you'll be able to dispose of that food so that nobody gets sick. And I'm good with that. But when I store something in a jar that I've dehydrated, or it's dry storage and I've used a lid and ring, and I used and pulled a vacuum on it, and so the jar is sealed at the top, the metal ring is sealed on there. I don't like to put those on my storage out in my food storage. I don't like to just leave those on the shelf with just the lid and no ring, because that to me is a little bit more, well, one, it's dry, and if the lid pops, I just feel like for some reason, I feel like that would cause a bigger problem with rodents getting into something that's dry. You may not see it for a while because of it being dry, and so you may be ready looking for liquid spills and that kind of stuff, and you've got this dry storage in there and the lid's moved off of it, and they can get right in there and get into that food. So on dry storage, I just feel more comfortable keeping the ring on those. And I don't think there's anything safety-wise of keeping the ring on a canning jar that's been sealed with the food saver. Now, we use a variety of methods here to prevent and to get rid of a problem when it arises. Under our house, we have a mobile home, and under our house, we put bar bait, and you get it. We get ours at our Tractor Supply or Atwoods, which I think Atwoods is regional, and from here in Oklahoma, and I think it's in some other states as well. And so we get that, and it comes in a big tub, and we just throw some of it under our house in different locations, because there's nothing keeping those critters from getting under your house. And I've heard them chew before, and I sure don't want them in here, because it always sounds like they're a great big thing when you hear them chewing, and I don't want them to chew through and get in. So we use bar bait. Inside the house, Howie always used the little packets of the little pellets that are poison. The ones that we use are green, and he put those packets up under the couch. My couch only has, it's like that high up off the floor, and other, under the beds and under places where there might be a problem with rodents. Now I may have to rethink that now that I've got a grandbaby coming. We don't have any pets in the house that we have to worry about a pet getting behind the couch or getting under the bed or something and finding the poison. But now that I have a grandbaby coming, I'll be more cautious on where we put those particular items to keep them out of the reach of little ones. Now, I've never been fond of setting traps. I'm kind of scared of them. But we have traps. We have mouse traps and we have rat traps. When I think about the rat trap, I remember a time when my mom, we were having a pack rat problem out in our barn. And they would set these big rat traps. And of course, us kids were always cautioned, do not get around those traps. So, it's going to hurt a whole lot worse than a mouse trap would. This rat trap would really, really hurt you. And so we knew we weren't supposed to mess with the rat traps. One day in particular, my stepdad was gone. I don't know if he was at work or he was hunting or what, but they caught a big pack rat in this rat trap. And this pack rat, he took off with the trap. And it got caught, and so here's the trap hanging, and here's this pack rat hanging on this fence, and he's not dead, he's alive, and he's moving around. And now, if any of you, I don't mean to hurt your hearts if you're attached to pack rats, I'm sorry. But this big pack rat you know, and my mama had to go up against the pack rat, and she worked and worked and worked because we were all little kids, and she had to figure out how she was going to take care, dispatch this pack rat without any of us getting bit or hurt or anything. And she worked and worked and worked and worked, and so finally she was able to get this pack rat dispatched and get it out of there. Now I think of that every time that I see those big rat traps. But so we use a variety of things. We have those. We don't have as many traps like that we actually have to set and then, you know, go back and you know, have our hands on the dead rodents and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But Howie got several of the Tomcat bait stations that we keep in our food storage. Down on the, you know, down in the on the perimeter of the floor, on places where that they might come in, like at the doors and different locations where they would squeeze through. And you know, it's like a little box, and they go in it, and they're taking care of that away, and you can dispose of it without dealing with you know, having to have your hands anywhere around those yucky mice or anything like that. So there are lots and lots of different different traps that you can use. And a lady sent me some information on a trap that she uses. It's not really a trap. It's kind of this thing that plugs in. And she's from the UK, and she showed me a picture of it, and I don't know if it would work here in the United States. The way her plugins looked compared to ours, I'm not really sure. But anyway, there's all kinds of things out there for you if you'll just do your research and decide what works best for you at your place. But I will tell you one that I won't be using personally. Now, I had somebody tell me that they use these particular traps for mice and rodents, and that they really liked them. But I'll tell you my personal experience and why I won't, and it is the glue traps. Once when Howie and I lived in Arkansas, we come in to visit Tex and Terry. And Howie and Tex went, and I don't know if they went to the cattle sale or they went, you know, working on fence or what they were doing, but they were gone for the day. And I was there with Terry, and she was doing her thing, and Tex had bought a load of range cubes, I think, and he had parked them up under the garage. And as usual, you live out in the country, you're going to have problems when you have things like that. You might have rats, field mice, squirrels. There's no telling what you could have a problem with. This particular instance, they had a problem with field mice and rats. So we were there at her house, and she ran into signs of rodent problems. And so we went to town, and she bought a variety of traps. She bought regular mouse traps, and she bought those big glue traps, and she went to setting them, putting them back in little cubbies and spaces where she thought the mice would be. And we went on about our day. And everybody started coming in that evening. Of course, Howie and Tex came in, and several of Howie's sisters and their kids were there. And we were watching a movie. Everybody was sitting around in the living room. And it seems like everybody was eating. I can't remember if we was eating pizza or what, but everybody was just kind of laying around, just taking it easy, watching this movie. And my little niece was sitting there in the floor, and she started hollering, and here come this big old mouse. A big one. And he had went through those glue traps and just made it was awful. Well, he was squawking and squealing and squeaking, whatever it is they do. And we were doing all the same stuff. I was up on the couch, and different ones were different places. And the guys started getting brooms and mops and all the stuff that they could get to try to take care of this big mouse, rat, whatever he was. And Tex and Terry had a brick wall up where their heating stove used to be, and that was moved out of the way, and the television was there, and she had pictures up on that brick wall, including a picture of Howie's grandpa. Well, that mouse, he ran up Tex's britches leg, and Tex shook it off, and then the mouse ran up, started running up that brick wall. And Howie, he had the broom, and he took it back and swung, and that mouse ran right up the back of Howie's grandpa's picture. And Howie said, "Sorry, Grandpa," and just whacked with all his might that picture. And you could hear that mouse and his bones crushing. It was awful. And everybody, I was gagging. It was gross. And everybody was just kind of all excited and worked up. And then that night, Howie and I were to sleep in the back bedroom. That was Howie's bedroom when he was a kid. And when we went in there, we could hear running up in the attic and up in the walls and stuff, because those field mice were eating on those range cubes and dragging them down in the floorboards and up in the walls and up in the attic. And right over where our heads were laying in the bed was a hole in the wall. Well, all I could think of the whole time we were in there was one of those rats was going to come out of that hole and get on me. And I, for the life of me, could not sleep. And I just kept after Howie and kept after Howie until we drug our mattress into the living room and slept on the floor in the living room. I could not get that picture of a rat getting on me out of my head. So anyway, I've never been really fond about the glue traps, because them old crazy things, they can still move, and I just the thought of them getting on me, I can't stand it. So I wanted to tell you that little story just to kind of lighten the mood just a little bit, because nobody has fun when it comes to talking about rodents. Beyond the rodents this time of year, you have to worry about spiders and other things coming in, and what we have always used. Now, I know there's lots of people that are against any kind of chemical sprays, but I'll just tell you, we use them because we have black widows and we have brown recluses, and those kind of things try to come in, and we don't want to get bit, and we don't want anyone else to get bitten. And we have a problem with those wolf spiders, those ones that have the big stripes on their legs. Well, I don't like those either. And so Howie always took that ortho spray and went around the baseboards all through the house, in all the rooms, in the closets, and that seems to take care of it. But it's not going to do you any good to have ideas of how to take care of these, whether you have poisons, or you have baits, or you have pelleted poison, or you have bar baits, or you have traps, if you don't make preparation and get those things and keep them stocked up. Now, Howie had a big shelf out in our storage, and on this storage shelf there's a bunch of cubbies. Every cubby has certain things. He has the stuff that's to take care of the rodents. He has the stuff that we always keep wasp and hornet spray on the shelf, because Howie was allergic, Cheyenne is allergic, and so that's something that we always try to stay ahead of. And I don't know about you guys, but we always have trouble with ants, except for in the wintertime. And so we always have the little terra baits that we put behind our faucets in the kitchen and in the bathrooms, and it seems like those ants are drawn to those, and it's easy and disposal, and you don't get your hands in any kind of poison or anything like that, and those ants take that back to their homes, and whatever happens. Another thing that you might consider, especially if you live in the city, and depending on who your neighbors are, and I don't mean that any way derogatory towards a certain type of person. I'm just saying, if your neighbors aren't clean and they've got roaches, chances are, if you live close enough, you're going to have to take care of making sure you've got some stuff to keep those roaches from coming to your house. Now, roaches carry diseases as well, and I'll tell you what those are. Now, this is by no means is this an exhaustive list. This is just telling you some of the things. Roaches can carry dysentery, cholera, and typhoid. Those are very, very serious and deadly diseases that these nasty little bugs can carry. They get on your food, they crawl all over everything, and they're going from place to place. And so you need to make sure that you've got something that can take care of those roaches and keep those things on hand. You know, we keep food stores and we keep supplies. And why would you want your stuff damaged or destroyed by something like that, like a roach? Now, I'll tell you, in the business Howie was in and Blade's in, there were lots of times that they would get called out to an air conditioner wasn't working, a cook stove wasn't working, refrigerator wasn't working, freezer wasn't working, and when they would pull the appliance out to work on it, roaches would run everywhere. And I'm telling you that roaches will ruin your appliances. They will get in, mice will do the same thing. They will get in and they will damage your control boards on your appliances. And once that's destroyed, you have to get a new control board or your appliance isn't going to work. Rats can get in and they'll eat your wiring. I don't know why they like to eat wiring, but they will eat your wiring. And you pay too much for those appliances to have to worry about those kind of things. You know, Howie, he would oftentimes come home and tell stories about going to someone's home that that would be nasty, and the first thing he would do, he kept in his side door one of those little bottles of Vicks, and he would put the Vicks up in his nose so he couldn't smell anything. The next thing he would do is a lot of times he would tuck his, if it was nasty, he would tuck his pants inside his socks, so that the idea of a roach crawling up his leg, he couldn't stand it. Other times it was so bad that he would take his jacket off if he'd wore a jacket in their house, or his shoes, or whatever it was, because some of these places would be bad. And I'm telling you, if you live next door to somebody that's got that problem, those roaches are going to travel. And it's best for you to keep your eye out on some products that you can keep on your shelves. Those of you that don't have a problem with spraying those kind of things or using traps, to keep your food supply safe and to keep your family safe and healthy. Now, besides indoor pest, out here in the country, we have outdoor pest, and this time of year brings them in. When it starts to cool off, you can always bet that you're going to start having trouble with raccoons and possums and armadillos and coyotes and those things that are after what you have. You know, you spend your time during the summer fighting garden pests, little bugs on your plants, and you fight trying to keep the raccoons and other rabbits and squirrels from eating your tomatoes and your corn and all that kind of stuff. And believe me, they will do it. But then in the wintertime or in the fall, you have to begin worrying about them getting in and eating your chickens and your guineas and your turkeys. And I know that people don't believe that really happens, but it does. We have a lot of people that have begged us not to do away with, not to dispatch possums, because they have all of these benefits. Well, they may do it, but I'm going to tell you guys that possums will get your chickens. If you didn't know that, now you do. A possum will get your chicken. So there's all kinds of things on the farm and at your home, even if you live in the city, that you can do to try your best to keep these rodents. Skunks is another one. Skunks will kill your chickens too. To keep these things from getting in and attacking your stuff. If you feeding animals, you're always going to have a mess. If you spill feed, try your best to get that feed picked up. And we will pick up feed, and a lot of times our chickens will come in and they'll help us by keeping it clean as well. If you spill feed, get it cleaned up. Make sure at night you're putting your animals away. We free range during the day, the chickens and all the other birds except for the quail. We don't let the quail free range. We wouldn't have any quail if we did that. But we at night we need to make sure that those birds are put up. you know, coyotes will come in, and a coyote will get your cat, your dog, if your dog's small enough to do. Now, you can watch a lot of YouTube channels, and they'll tell you how to deal with pests. And right now, I'm not necessarily talking about deer, although deer are beautiful animals. They can be a pest if they're getting into your garden and get into your produce. I'm talking about the pests that come in the winter and pose a problem for you. The ones that are going to get your animals, like the ones that I just mentioned, the coyotes and the armadillos and the raccoons and the skunks and those. Squirrels are just like mice and rats. They'll get in and they'll eat the wiring, and they'll plant when they find walnuts and pecans and all these things. They'll get in your vehicle up in the under the hood, and they'll, you know, squirrel their stuff away. They'll, you know, bury it or do whatever they have to do to prepare for winter. They can do a lot of damage. So I know this seems like a crazy video tonight, telling you all this kind of stuff about mice and rodents, but we need to make sure that we're looking well to the ways of our household. And one of those ways is to make sure that we're doing our best to keep pests out of our stuff. Now, with our food storage, we can keep the mice out and the bugs out by putting things in the glass containers. Also, with the bugs, make sure that when you bring your food home from the grocery store, I'm talking things like rice and beans and flour and pastas and all that kind of stuff, just know that you're probably bringing some bug eggs home with you already. So the best thing for you to do is to freeze that food for at least 3 days. When you take it out, let that food come completely to room temperature before you prepare it to for storage in other ways. Now, when I take mine out of the freezer and I bring it to room temperature, then I repackage it. I don't like to just take it out of the freezer, let it come to room temperature, and then stick it on the shelf, because it's still vulnerable in those boxes. Even though I might have killed the bug eggs, then if you just put it on the shelf, it can get reinfested with bugs. If you've ever had a pantry moth, you know what I am talking about. They will get through bags. They will bore in there, and you will have an infestation like nobody's business. So don't just take it out of the freezer and let it come to room temperature and put it on your shelf. Let it come to room temperature, and then put it in some kind of container that can be sealed, vacuum sealed. Have a vacuum pulled out so that nothing can get in the jar. Put it in those lock and locks. Put it in bags and keep it in the freezer. Do if you can also pull a vacuum on your food storage bags, and then put those food storage bags inside a bucket. There's all kinds of ways to keep those nasty pests out of your food, out of your supplies, and keep those things for yourself and for your family, because you're looking well to the way of your household, not the rodents. Okay, guys, enough of this silliness. I hope you got something out of this. If you've got any information on pest control that might help somebody, feel free to leave it down below. I hope this was a little bit of a lighthearted way to talk about pests. Nobody likes to talk about pests. And until next time, guys, this is Josie. I love you guys. I really do. Protect your food storage. Keep those things on hand that'll keep that stuff out of your supplies. Until next time, we're gone.